The mining colony of Kepler 442b had been silent for 3 days. Commander Zara Chun of the Galactic Survey Corps stared at the last transmission log, her heart sinking with each passing moment. 47 human families, including children, had simply vanished from what was supposed to be the safest sector in the Outer Rim. Any response from the automated systems? She asked her communications officer, Lieutenant Hayes. Nothing, Commander. All mining equipment shows green, atmospheric processors are running normally, but life signs, 0 across the board. The bridge of the survey ship Meridian buzzed with tense energy. They had been the first responders to the colony's distress beacon, but what they found defied explanation. Every building stood intact, meals half finished on tables, children's toys scattered in playgrounds, but not a single soul remained. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist, approached with her tablet displaying atmospheric readings. Commander, I'm detecting trace amounts of an unknown compound in the air. Molecular structure suggests it's synthetic, definitely not naturally occurring on this planet. Hostile action? Chen asked, though she already suspected the answer. Most likely. The compound appears designed to render humans unconscious without causing permanent harm. Sophisticated stuff. Whoever did this wanted them alive. Chen felt ice form in her stomach. Slave traders. The outer colonies had been plagued by them for months, but this was the boldest strike yet. These weren't random raiders picking off isolated ships. This was a coordinated assault on a fortified settlement. Ma'am, Hayes called out. I'm picking up movement in the asteroid field. Multiple contacts, trying to mask their signatures behind the rocks. On screen, the main display showed what appeared to be empty space dotted with floating asteroids, but Chen's trained eye caught the subtle distortions. Ships. Big ones. How many? She demanded. At least 12 vessels, possibly more. Configuration suggests Khazari design, but modified. Heavy armor, enhanced shielding. The Khazari Syndicate. Chen had heard the reports, but hoped they were exaggerated. A coalition of various alien species united under one goal: capturing and selling intelligent beings to the highest bidder. Humans, with their adaptability and resilience, had become their most prized commodity. They're powering weapons, Hayes announced, his voice tight with worry. Chen made a quick calculation. The Meridian was a survey vessel, armed for defense against pirates, not military engagement. Against 12 heavy raiders, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. Full retreat. Get us out of here, maximum burn. Commander, what about the colonists? We can't help them if we're dead. Set course for the nearest Terran defense post, and transmit everything we've recorded. As the Meridian banked away from Kepler 442b, Chen watched the planet shrink on their rear display. Somewhere down there, 47 innocent people were either dead or facing a fate worse than death. The Khazari were known for breaking their captives psychologically before sale, ensuring complete obedience. The journey to Fort Blackstone took 18 hours at maximum burn. Chen barely slept, haunted by images of what the colonists might be enduring. When they finally docked, she was first off the ship, clutching the data chips containing all their sensor recordings. Admiral Marcus Webb, commander of the Outer Rim Defense Initiative, was a grizzled veteran with scars from the border wars. He listened to Chen's report in stony silence, occasionally requesting clarification on technical details. 47 confirmed missing, he asked when she finished. Yes, sir. Families with children. The Hendersons just had a baby last month. Webb's jaw tightened. The Khazari have been getting bolder. 3 colonies hit in the past month, over 200 humans taken. Intelligence suggests they're building something big, a central processing facility where they break down their captives before distribution to buyers across the galaxy. We have to do something, sir. Those people are as good as gone, Commander. The Khazari don't keep captives in one place long. By now they're scattered across a dozen slave markets in non-aligned space. Chen felt her hands clench into fists. So we just write them off? 47 human lives mean nothing. Webb stood slowly, his expression unreadable. Commander Chen, you've done your duty by bringing us this intelligence. The Defense Corps will evaluate options for a response. As Chen left the Admiral's office, she felt hollow inside. She had joined the Survey Corps to explore new worlds and protect human expansion into the galaxy. Instead, She was helplessly watching as her own species was hunted and harvested like livestock. But, unknown to Chun, her report had triggered something far beyond the normal chain of command. Deep in the classified sections of Earth's military command, a different kind of message was being prepared. The kind that would soon make the Khazari Syndicate regret ever hearing the word human. 3 weeks after the Kepler 442b incident, the Khazari Syndicate struck again. This time, they hit the agricultural world of New Manitoba, taking an entire farming community of 83 souls. Then came the research station at Proxima Centauri b. 37 scientists and support staff vanished without a trace. High Warlord Krextar stood in the command center of his flagship Bloodhunt, watching his subordinates catalog their latest acquisitions. The humans were proving even more valuable than anticipated. Their psychological resilience made them excellent long-term workers, while their physical adaptability allowed them to function in environments that would kill most other species. Report, he growled to his intelligence chief, a skeletal Vazik named Sithrak. The humans are panicking, Warlord. Their outer colonies are evacuating deeper into protected space. Some settlements are hiring mercenary protection, but nothing that can stand against our full battle groups. Krextar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Fear was as valuable as any weapon. And their military response? Minimal. A few patrol ships, some reinforced stations. Their defense corps is spread thin across hundreds of colonies. They cannot protect everyone. This was exactly what Krextar had hoped to hear. The humans were numerous, but scattered. Their military focused on exploration rather than warfare. Perfect prey for a predator species like his own. Prepare the next phase, he commanded. Hit 5 colonies simultaneously. Show them that nowhere is safe. But what Krextar didn't know was that his raids had triggered protocols established centuries ago, during humanity's darkest conflicts. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, in facilities that officially didn't exist, emergency meetings were taking place. General Sarah Morrison reviewed the classified reports with growing fury. As commander of Earth's Strategic Response Division, she had access to military assets that the regular Defense Corps could only dream of. Assets created during the Resource Wars, when humanity had nearly destroyed itself and vowed never to be so vulnerable again. How many total missing? She asked her aide, Colonel Reeves. 170 confirmed abducted, sir. 3 colonies completely depopulated, 2 others partially evacuated before the raids. Morrison pulled up a holographic display showing the attacked sectors. The pattern was clear. The Khazari were working their way toward more populated systems, growing bolder with each success. Activation codes for the strike forces? Standing by for your authorization, General. Morrison had hoped this day would never come. The strike forces were humanity's nuclear option, teams of enhanced soldiers and advanced AI-controlled warships designed for one purpose: absolute warfare against existential threats to human civilization. Are we certain diplomatic solutions have been exhausted? The Khazari Syndicate doesn't recognize any galactic authority. They've ignored all attempts at negotiation and have made it clear they view humans as livestock, not sentient beings. Morrison entered her authorization codes into the secure terminal. Across the solar system, automated systems began awakening technologies that had slept for decades. Strike Force Alpha, Beta, and Gamma are authorized for immediate deployment. Rules of engagement: unrestricted warfare against all Khazari Syndicate assets. Primary objective: rescue of human captives. Secondary objective: complete elimination of the Khazari threat to human space. Meanwhile, aboard a Khazari prison ship designated Suffering's End, Dr. James Mitchell tried to keep his fellow captives calm. The former colony physician had become an unofficial leader among the prisoners, organizing them and maintaining morale despite their horrific circumstances. The Khazari had separated them into groups based on their perceived value. Scientists and medical personnel were kept in slightly better conditions, while laborers and farmers endured cramped cells with minimal food. Children were isolated completely, their fate unknown. 4 days, 18 hours at current velocity. Ares 7 responded in its calm, synthetic voice. Khazari fleet positions have been updated based on latest intelligence. Probability of successful mission completion, 93.7%. Torres had volunteered for Strike Force Command despite knowing the odds of survival were slim. These weren't patrol missions or peacekeeping operations. This was war in its purest form, against an enemy that showed no mercy. "Crew briefing in 1 hour," she announced. "I want everyone to understand exactly what we're walking into." As the Retribution and its escort vessels raced through hyperspace, the Khazari continued their raids, unaware that they had just awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. High Warlord Krextar was about to learn that there was a difference between hunting scattered colonists and facing Earth's true military might. The humans his forces had been capturing and torturing were about to be rescued by soldiers who had been bred for war and equipped with weapons designed to end civilizations. The age of easy prey was about to end. The Khazari prison facility, known as Processing Station Omega, orbited a dead star in the Veil Nebula, hidden from most sensor arrays by the stellar remnants radiation. Here, over 400 human captives from dozens of raids lived in nightmarish conditions while their alien captors prepared them for sail across the galaxy. Dr. James Mitchell had organized the prisoners into a crude communication network using tapped codes through the ship's hull. Information flowed slowly but steadily. Guard rotations, ship movements, and, most importantly, locations of the children who had been separated from their families. New arrivals in Bay 7. Came the message from a prisoner in the adjacent block. 23 humans from the Titan Station raid. Mitchell closed his eyes in despair. The raids were continuing, which meant no rescue was coming. The galaxy's various governments were either too weak or too indifferent to challenge the Khazari Syndicate's growing power. What he didn't know was that Strike Force Alpha had just dropped out of hyperspace at the nebula's edge. Captain Diana Torres studied the tactical display, showing the massive facility ahead. The Khazari had built their prison ship to house thousands of captives, with multiple production levels where prisoners were broken down mentally before being shipped to slave markets. Ares, analysis of the target. Station houses an estimated 400 to 600 human captives across 12 detention levels. Defensive armament includes 42 heavy plasma cannons, 18 torpedo tubes, and a complement of 57 fighter craft. Station structure shows significant radiation shielding due to proximity to the dead star. Torres nodded grimly. The shielding that protected the station from radiation would also make targeted rescue operations extremely difficult. They would need to get close and personal. Deploy the Wraith teams. I want full infiltration before we announce our presence. In the fighter bay of the Retribution, 12 soldiers in advanced stealth armor prepared their equipment. These were humanity's ghost operators, genetically enhanced special forces equipped with technology that made them nearly invisible to most sensor systems. Each had volunteered for neural implants that linked them directly to AI support networks, turning them into perfect killing machines when necessary. Sergeant Marcus Kane checked his weapon systems one final time. His rifle fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, while his armor could absorb and redistribute energy weapon impacts. But his most valuable tool was the tactical AI in his helmet, constantly analyzing enemy positions and suggesting optimal strategies. Wraith 1 to control. Beginning insertion. The stealth transport Shadowfall detached from the main fleet and began its approach to the prison station. Its hull was designed to absorb sensor pings while generating a false signature that mimicked space debris. Inside Processing Station Omega, Warden Gorvek was reviewing the latest batch of psychological evaluations. The humans continued to surprise him with their resistance to standard braking procedures. Even their younglings showed remarkable mental fortitude. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the dead star. Possible solar flare activity." Gorvek barely glanced at the display. "Adjust our position if necessary. I don't want radiation interfering with the conditioning programs." The false energy readings were actually the Shadowfall, using the star's radiation as cover for its approach. Within minutes, 12 of humanity's deadliest soldiers were attached to the station's hull, cutting through armor plating with molecular disruptors. Kane was first through the breach, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to neutralize 2 Khazari guards before they could trigger alarms. The rest of his team flowed through the opening like liquid death, securing the maintenance level with surgical precision. Wraith 1 to all teams. We're inside. Beginning search for primary targets. The Ghost operators split into 3 teams, each heading for a different section of the prison levels. Their AI systems had mapped the station's layout using passive sensor sweeps, identifying likely locations for human captives. Dr. Mitchell was trying to comfort a traumatized child when the lights in his cell block suddenly flickered. The background hum of the station's systems changed pitch slightly, something that most prisoners wouldn't notice, but Mitchell's medical training had taught him to pay attention to environmental changes. Then, he heard something impossible, the soft whistle of human tactical signals. "Stay quiet," he whispered to the others as he pressed his ear to the cell door. The sounds were getting closer, boot steps with a distinctly human rhythm, followed by the muffled impacts of bodies hitting the floor. The cell block's main door exploded inward, and through the smoke stepped a figure that seemed like something from a nightmare. The soldier was encased in matte black armor that seemed to absorb light, with a helmet that showed no features except a faint red glow where eyes might be. But when he spoke, his voice carried hope. "United States Marines, here to get you home." Sergeant Kane's team had located the largest concentration of human prisoners, while the other teams secured escape routes and eliminated guard positions. The Khazari, confident in their facility's secrecy, had never prepared for this kind of assault. "How many of you can walk?" Kane asked as he began opening cell doors with his armor's interface tools. "Most of us," Mitchell replied, hardly daring to believe this was real. "But there are children in the upper levels." They separated the families. "Already on it. Wraith 3 is extracting the miners. We'll have you all off this station in 15 minutes. As the prisoners began filing out of their cells, Kane activated his long-range communicator. "Wraith 1 to Retribution. Packages secured and ready for extraction. Recommend immediate tactical strike on the facility." Captain Torres had been waiting for those words. "All ships, weapons free. Target the station's power core. Let's send a message." The Retribution and its escort vessels emerged from stealth, their weapon systems powering up with the distinctive whine of hypervelocity mass drivers. The Khazari facility, built to intimidate prisoners rather than fight battles, stood no chance against humanity's most advanced warships. But this was only the beginning. Across Khazari space, similar rescue operations were beginning as Earth strike forces emerged from years of hidden preparation. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived every extinction event their homeworld had thrown at them, and why peaceful coexistence was always the wiser choice when dealing with Earth's children. High Warlord Krextar received the first reports of the attacks while reviewing profits from the latest slave auctions. Processing Station Omega had gone silent, along with 2 other major facilities. Initial reports suggested system malfunctions, but the complete loss of contact from multiple installations was unprecedented. "Give me tactical analysis," he snarled at his bridge crew aboard the Bloodhunt. "I want to know what happened to my stations." Within hours, the truth became undeniable. Long-range sensors detected debris fields where his facilities used to be, along with energy signatures that matched no known technology in this sector. Worse, automated distress beacons were broadcasting detailed recordings of the attacks. The creatures that had assaulted his installations moved like nothing Krextar had ever seen. They appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished before his forces could respond. The weapon signatures suggested technology decades ahead of anything the humans were supposed to possess. "Sir," his intelligence chief Sithrak reported with obvious fear, "we're receiving communications from the human government. They demand immediate release of all prisoners and complete withdrawal from human space." "Demands." Krextar's voice carried dangerous calm. "What gives these prey animals the right to make demands of the Khazari Syndicate? They've attached tactical data from the raids. Warlord, their ships are unlike anything in our databases. The power readings suggest individual vessels capable of destroying entire fleets." Krextar studied the tactical recordings with growing unease. The human ships moved with unnatural coordination, their weapons fire synchronized down to the nanosecond. Their assault teams operated like extensions of a single mind, eliminating resistance with mechanical efficiency. But what truly disturbed him was the ease with which they had penetrated his most secure facilities. The Khazari prided themselves on superior technology, Yet these humans had treated their defenses like children's toys. How many facilities have we lost? 7 confirmed destroyed. 3 more have gone silent. Estimated prisoner recovery, nearly complete. They're taking everyone. Warlord. The scope of the disaster was staggering. Months of careful raids, hundreds of valuable captives, billions in potential profits, all erased in a matter of days. But Krextar was not just a slaver. He was a conqueror who had built his empire through ruthless application of force. Recall all raiding fleets. I want every available ship concentrated at the Nexus Fortress. If the humans want a war, they'll get one. The Nexus Fortress was the Syndicate's primary military base, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the Kepler Void. Its location was one of the most closely guarded secrets in Khazari space, known only to the highest-ranking warlords. Here, Krextar commanded over 200 heavy warships and the most advanced weapons his species had developed. Captain Diana Torres reviewed the intelligence reports aboard the Retribution as Strike Force Alpha regrouped at a classified staging area. The rescue operations had been successful beyond all projections. Over 400 human captives recovered with minimal casualties. But Ares 7's analysis suggested this was only the beginning. Khazari fleet movements indicate they're consolidating for a major engagement, the AI reported. Probability suggests they're planning to make a stand at a fortified position rather than continue asymmetric operations. Torres understood the logic. The Khazari had built their reputation through intimidation and overwhelming local superiority. Having that reputation shattered by a handful of human ships would destroy their credibility with other predator species. Recommendations? Allow them to concentrate their forces, then demonstrate the futility of conventional resistance. The psychological impact of defeating their main fleet will prevent future incursions into human space. It was a cold calculation, but Torres knew Ares 7 was right. Half measures would only lead to prolonged conflict. Better to end this decisively. Meanwhile, in the medical bay of the Retribution, Dr. James Mitchell was helping treat rescued prisoners while trying to process his own experiences. The efficiency of the rescue had been almost supernatural. Soldiers who seemed to anticipate enemy movements, ships that appeared and disappeared at will, weapons that struck with impossible accuracy. Dr. Sarah Henderson approached with her infant son, both of them looking healthier after days of proper food and medical care. The captain wants to speak with all the colony leaders about what happens next. Mitchell nodded, but privately wondered what next could possibly mean. They had been rescued from certain death or worse, but at what cost? The technology he had witnessed suggested humanity possessed military capabilities far beyond anything publicly acknowledged. What other secrets was Earth keeping? The briefing room held representatives from a dozen colonies, all trying to comprehend the scope of their rescue. Captain Torres entered with several of her senior officers, their presence somehow both reassuring and intimidating. Ladies and gentlemen, Torres began, you've all been through an ordeal that no human should endure. I want you to know that your experiences have triggered protocols designed to ensure this never happens again. A farmer from New Manitoba raised his hand nervously. Captain, how did you find us so quickly? The Khazari said their locations were undetectable. Torres exchanged glances with her tactical officer before responding. Earth has capabilities that we prefer to keep classified. What matters is that you're safe and returning home. But what about the Khazari? Dr. Mitchell asked. They'll just retaliate against other colonies, won't they? No. Torres replied with absolute certainty. They won't. As the rescued prisoners were transported to secure medical facilities for full recovery, Strike Force Alpha began its final preparations. Intelligence had located the Nexus Fortress, and Ares 7 had calculated optimal attack vectors for maximum psychological impact. The Khazari Syndicate had spent decades building their reputation as unstoppable predators. In less than a week, humanity's hidden fleets were about to reduce that reputation to cosmic dust. High Warlord Krextar stood in his command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing the largest concentration of military force the Syndicate had ever assembled. 237 heavy warships, equipped with weapons that had conquered dozens of species. They're coming, Sithrak reported as sensor arrays detected approaching energy signatures. 3 contacts, approaching from different vectors. Only 3 ships. Krextar allowed himself a moment of savage satisfaction. The humans had grown overconfident after their sneak attacks on isolated facilities. Now they would face the full might of the Khazari war machine. All ships, weapons-free. Show them what real power looks like. He was about to discover that there were some forces in the galaxy that conventional weapons couldn't touch. The 3 human vessels that emerged from hyperspace near the Nexus Fortress were unlike anything the Khazari sensors had ever detected. The Retribution, Vengeance, and Absolution moved with impossible coordination, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each ship was over a kilometer long, bristling with weapons systems that registered as beyond classification on Khazari tactical computers. High Warlord Krextar stared at the tactical display, his confidence wavering for the first time in decades. 237 ships against 3 should have been a massacre. Instead, his fleet commanders were reporting targeting failures and system malfunctions. Weapons status report, he demanded. Sir, our targeting systems cannot achieve lock-on. The enemy vessels appear to be generating some form of interference field. Energy signatures suggest impossible power generation levels. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the Khazari fleet spread into attack formation. Ares 7 had mapped every ship's position, weapon capabilities, and likely tactical responses. The AI's processing power was so advanced that it was essentially fighting this battle several seconds in the future. Open a channel to the Khazari command ship, Torres ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing High Warlord Krextar in all his predatory glory. The alien's reptilian features were twisted with barely controlled rage, but Torres could see uncertainty in his eyes. I am Captain Diana Torres of the Terran Strike Forces. You have enslaved and tortured human citizens. You have attacked civilian populations without provocation. By the authority vested in me by Earth Command, I offer you one opportunity to surrender unconditionally. Krextar's mandibles clicked in what Torres knew was the Khazari equivalent of laughter. 3 ships against my entire fleet. Your species' arrogance will be your extinction. Your choice, Torres replied calmly. Ares, demonstrate. The AI needed no further instruction. The Retribution's main weapon array powered up, drawing energy from the ship's quantum core. What emerged was not conventional projectiles or energy beams, but focused gravitational distortions that twisted space-time itself. The gravitational lance struck the lead Khazari battleship and simply unraveled it at the molecular level. Metal, flesh, and composite materials separated into their component atoms, creating a brief star-like flare before dispersing into cosmic dust. The Khazari fleet's coordinated attack formation broke apart as ship commanders stared in horror at where their flagship had been. A vessel that had survived battles with 3 different species, equipped with armor that could deflect planet-killing weapons, had been deleted from existence in less than a second. Impossible, Krextar whispered. No weapon can generate that level of focused gravimetric force. Torres' voice remained steady. You have 60 seconds to surrender your remaining vessels and submit to judgment for crimes against sentient beings. Failure to comply will result in the complete elimination of your forces. The warlord's mind raced through possibilities. Retreat was impossible. The human ships had appeared instantly from hyperspace, suggesting transportation technology that could intercept any fleeing vessels. Fighting seemed equally futile if all their ships possessed weapons like the one just demonstrated. But Krextar was a predator species, evolved from hunters who had never learned to submit. All ships, ramming speed. If we die, we take these humans with us. The Khazari fleet surged forward in a desperate charge, hoping to overwhelm the human ships through sheer numbers. It was a tactic that had worked against other species who relied on conventional weapons and armor. Ares 7 calculated trajectories, optimal firing solutions, and psychological impact parameters in the span of nanoseconds. The AI's response was precisely calibrated to end the threat while sending a message that would resonate across the galaxy for generations. The 3 human ships spread apart, their weapon systems creating a synchronized light show that turned space itself into a weapon. Gravitational lances, antimatter torpedoes, and exotic energy projectors reached out across millions of kilometers to touch the charging Khazari fleet. Ships didn't explode, they simply ceased to exist. The lucky ones were vaporized instantly by antimatter reactions. Others were caught in gravitational shears that stretched them across light years before releasing them as streams of superheated plasma. In less than 5 minutes, the largest military force the Khazari Syndicate had ever assembled was reduced to scattered debris and radiation. High Warlord Krextar found himself alone in his command center, his flagship systems failing around him as gravitational aftershocks tore through the vessel's structure. "Please," he transmitted as his ship began breaking apart. "Mercy, we surrender." Torres watched the last Khazari vessel's death throes with no emotion. Mercy was an option 60 seconds ago. You chose violence against civilians. This is the consequence. As the Nexus Fortress and its defending fleet became cosmic dust, automated probes launched from the human ships. These devices would spread across Khazari space, broadcasting detailed recordings of the battle along with a simple message in every known language. Humanity claims no territory beyond our established colonies. We seek peaceful coexistence with all sentient species. However, any attempt to enslave, torture, or otherwise harm human beings will result in the complete eradication of the aggressor species. This is not a negotiation. This is reality. Dr. James Mitchell stood in the observation deck of the hospital ship Mercy, watching Earth grow larger as they approached home. Around him, other survivors of Khazari captivity were experiencing the same mixture of relief and disbelief. They had been rescued by forces that seemed more like science fiction than reality. Dr. Sarah Henderson joined him at the viewport, her infant son sleeping peacefully in her arms. "Do you think they'll tell us what really happened out there?" Mitchell considered the question carefully. The official reports spoke of a police action against slavers, with minimal details about the technology involved. But anyone who had witnessed the rescue operations or seen the aftermath of the final battle knew they had glimpsed something extraordinary. "I think," he said slowly, "that humanity has been preparing for threats we didn't even know existed. What we saw was our insurance policy against anyone who mistakes our desire for peace as weakness." 3 months later, the former Khazari territories had been claimed by various species who promised to govern according to Galactic Council guidelines. Slavery was banned throughout the sector, with enforcement guaranteed by the unnamed human fleets that occasionally appeared to investigate violations. Commander Zara Chun, now promoted to Admiral and given command of the Outer Colonies Defense Initiative, reviewed reports from across human space. Not a single raid, kidnapping, or hostile action had been attempted against any human settlement since the Khazari extinction. "Status of the strike forces?" she asked her aide during their weekly briefing. "Returned to classified status, ma'am. Officially, they never existed." Chen nodded. "It was better that way. Let the galaxy believe that humanity's peaceful exploration fleets were all they had to worry about. Let them think that 3 ships had somehow defeated the Khazari through superior tactics rather than superior technology." But she knew the truth, as did every human who had seen the classified reports. Earth had spent centuries preparing for the day when peaceful coexistence would fail. When that day came, humanity's response had been swift, decisive, and absolutely final. The galaxy was a safer place now, and it would remain so as long as everyone remembered the simple lesson the Khazari had learned too late. There was a significant difference between humanity's desire for peace and humanity's capacity for war. Those who confused the two did so at their own extinction.